What is Xi Jinping aiming to achieve with this trip to Southeast Asia?
Xi is trying to present himself and China as a stable, reliable, dependable alternative to a United States that, in many ways, is seen in this part of the world increasingly as a belligerent power. The United States, is threatening right now Malaysia with 24% tariffs, 46% tariffs on Vietnam, and 50% tariffs on Cambodia, three countries that she is going to on this visit. That's very, very scary. And let's not forget that the tariffs right now are only in pause. There's a postponement. They may come back after the 90-day review that was implemented earlier. So she, in many ways, is trying to serve as a ballast for these countries in what is now an incredibly turbulent time. I think for these Southeast Asian countries, they're all in a very difficult spot because they can't really make a choice between the U.S. and China without, exacting huge, damage on their economies.
Do you think Southeast Asian countries can ease the US's concerns over Chinese goods being manufactured in their countries?
Donald Trump and White House senior trade advisor Peter Navarro have made it very clear that they do not want these countries to be backdoors for Chinese companies to circumvent U.S. tariffs and U.S. sanctions. That is not what's going to happen, and they've made that abundantly clear. And already we've seen the Vietnamese now start to push back on the Chinese, saying if you're coming here just to send to the United States, that is going to be a problem. Anwar Ibrahim very, very early on said Malaysia cannot be a base for circumventing Chinese tariffs. And he really discouraged that kind of Chinese investment. So they're going to have to be a little bit more disciplined in terms of what kind of Chinese investment comes into these countries. If it's to literally get around US sanctions on China and to avoid the 145% tariff, for example, that is not going to work because the Americans have become very sophisticated now in monitoring Chinese transshipments.
How might China team up with Southeast Asia to soften the blow from US tariffs?
Southeast Asia is a market of 700 million people. It's a fast and up and coming middle class. It's a good market for China to be in. So when they're building BYD factories in Malaysia and Vietnam and other places, and even in Thailand, part of that is to export to other parts of the world. But a big part of that is to sell to consumers in these markets. So that's number one. Number two is this is not uniquely a Southeast Asian phenomenon. The Chinese are building BYD factories in Turkey. They're building them in Africa. They're building them in Latin America. They're building factories and supply chains, outside of China in lots of different verticals and sectors. So Southeast Asia is by far the most important for China because contrary to the rhetoric that we're seeing in the United States today, where they feel that the United States is the most important trading region for China, that is not true.